Hi, we're doing a repair on it's a Westinghouse dehumidifier. Um, the reason that we're doing this is because we went to all the home improvement stores and to supermarkets and department stores to look for a new dehumidifier, and we could not find one that has a good sized tank. All the new dehumidifiers that are sold today all have these like 2 quart tanks, like a half gallon. This thing here I think is 2.5 gallons. And if your dehumidifier is not located near a drain, which all the new ones have these where you can hook up a hose to the drain, if you're not near a drain, you know, they run a short time and the tank gets full, and I guess you save money because it's not running, but it's not doing its job either. So anyhow, we've got this dehumidifier. There's a data plate on it. It's a Westinghouse. It's got a nice sized tank to it, and we're going to do a repair for a leak. Freon leak on the system. So stay tuned. Hey, it's August 3rd, 2016, and we're working on this dehumidifier. We put a charge on it, I don't know, a month or two ago, and actually we put a charge on it about a year ago, and it ran for a full year, no problem. And then this summer, at the beginning of summer, we found that it had lost its charge. So we put another charge on it, and it lost that within, I don't know, 2 or 3 days. So we're trying to determine why that happened. So here we are. We put nitrogen. This thing was totally, totally empty. So we pressurized the dehumidifier with nitrogen, and just kept spraying with soap. You got some leak check here, all kinds of things to see if we could spot the leak, and we finally come down to it. We found right here on this tube right here. I can do this. Let me back away here a little bit. But anyhow, right here there's a pretty good, there's a break in the tube. You can actually see this stuff spraying away. So there's a hole in the tube right there, right where that little yellow mark is. And so now we're going to try and silver solder it, the tube, and stop the leak. On the other side, you know, we broke everything open, and we got this from Master Cool. They've got a leak check gauge. Right now, I think we pressurized it. It said the low side could be at 150, so we took it to the 150. And right now, let me get this thing flipped around. Right now, we're down to about 100. Touch over 100 psi, but in an 8-hour time, that which looks to be a pretty serious leak to me, it takes about 8 hours to bleed this thing down from 150 to basically nothing. 8 to 10 hours, and when you look at that leak up close, it looks gigantic. Would have thought. But anyhow, that's it. So the next step, next phase, now that we found the leak, this is done with, the system was empty again, and we took this nitrogen bottle and we connected this up to one of these valves, that these subco valves. We installed that in there, I changed it this year because the little needle valve was leaking, so I started there. That was the original leak, right here at this little needle valve. So I put a new subco on it. I cleaned out before I installed this thing. I put it right back in the exact spot where the other one was. I ran the needle all the way down this time. They tell you they have the needle all the way backed out, but I ran it all the way down to locate on the same spot, and then just tightened everything up. I also cleaned out where the needle was, made sure that was real clean, and then I got some of this O-ring lube that causes the O-ring to swell over time, so I put some of that on there to kind of keep the O-ring tight against the needle so it doesn't leak. So I got that sealed up, and then I charged it last night, and the thing, it dropped down in about a 12-hour period. It dropped from the 150, or I think I was at 120, down to nothing. So when I got home from work, I charged it up again, and this morning it was at I don't know, 10 psi. So I knew we had to find this leak. So we stripped everything off of all the tubes that had all that all this protection stuff on there. We stripped all that stuff off and checked all the tubing, couldn't find anything, about ready to give up, and we flipped it around and we started looking at what is the evaporator. The inside here is the condenser, and then that outside coil is the evaporator. So we just started spraying there, and we had done that already and didn't see a leak, but by pure luck and maybe a little bit of help from above, we spotted it this time when we were spraying. So I stripped it off, and there's the leak. So the next step of the process is to silver solder that, and I got some silver solder coming, so we'll continue this when we get this thing soldered up. Okay, where the leak was, we took a piece of this 1/4-inch tubing, and we slit I don't know, about 1.5 inch piece, and then we kind of formed it to the tube. We're going to make a patch here, so this is going to actually go over to the top of where the leak is and get soldered on. So I wanted to show you how we form this this patch that's going over the top. Okay, so there's the patch. We got the patch formed to the tube. The reason we're going with a patch is we realized after looking at the leak that it appears to be a crack instead of just a hole. And in most metal surfaces, when you get a crack, they have a tendency to migrate. So what I'm going to do here is pressurize this thing again, find the ends of the crack, and stop drill them. And then once they're stop drilled, we'll solder this this patch over the top, and then we'll pressurize it again and see if there's any leaks. Let it set overnight, possibly. But that's the plan. So we'll get set up for the stop drill and start another video at that point. Okay, we got set up here to find what we thought was a crack. But we got a lot of light on it, and we got some magnification going here. And we got a good look at this thing, and it appears, and it's not going to show up on this video because I don't have a close-up, but it's a pit in the tube. That's it's a hole. It's not a crack. So what we're going to do is I think we're just going to lay a coat of solder over that, real thin coat, and then put the cap that we made, or the patch, over the top of that, and then solder the patch on, because I think it'll be stronger that way, and hopefully this is going to work. So Next step is to get this thing ready for solder. Everything's been cleaned, so it's just a matter of taking it outside, fluxing this thing, putting some heat on it, and putting a solder to it. So we'll show you the next video when we get the patch back on, or maybe when we get the solder stuff set up. I can't shoot the video and hold the camera and work the torch all at the same time, so I won't be able to show it to you, but I'll show you the afterwards what happens, and maybe give you a picture of the equipment used. Okay, here we are. We're all set up to tin this tube and then put the patch on. This is what we did. We took a bunch of wet rags and packed it around everywhere, and then we took some of the sheet metal, and we're using that to act as a heat shield against the heat. What we're going to do is just tin the tube, and then we're going to place the patch on there and then solder the patch on once the tube is tinned. We're using this Stay Bright number 8 solder and Stay Clean flux, and the torch is it's a acetylene air torch that we're going to use to actually apply the heat. So that's it. Once we get this tinned, maybe we'll come back just before we put the patch on there and give you another shot of it. Okay, the solder job didn't go too well, so we cut everything out, and we're going to go up to the hardware store and see if we can get some compression fittings to fit this and see if that'll seal it up. But that's where we're at now. This stuff is so thin that as soon as you put the heat on it, and there was some corrosion on the outside of it, it just busted right through. So we're going to try compression fittings and see if we can save this thing. Otherwise it'll be out there for the trash man. Okay, so this is where we ended up. We ended up going with some compression fittings and a new chunk of tube. We got both. Everything is seated and tightened up now, so we're going to take it back downstairs and hook the nitrogen up to it and see if this thing will pass the 24-hour leak test. But that's where it's at. You can see down inside there maybe actually some of the plastic melted away when we applied the heat. If we would have had a smaller tip, I think would have been alright with the solder job. Actually, the smallest tip available was a 0 on a Prestolite, which is like, I think, 2 cubic feet per hour. That might have been the best tip to use here, because it's confined, the stuff is really thin, and that might have been the best way to go, but we didn't have the tip, so we used a number 5, which is 7.6 cubic feet per hour. I think it was way too big for what we're trying to do here. Other than that, we'll see how this thing does on a leak check, and then we'll continue this video. Yeah, so make sure you don't have any other leaks in the system. Here it is, a brand new master cool regulator, and the fitting is leaking. So there you go. Make sure nothing else leaks. Master cool, not so good. It seems like a good regulator, but I mean, they should ship it to you without leaking. Alright, there you go.